The Texas night was alive with the pulse of Friday football, the kind that turns a small ranch town like Willow Creek into a cathedral of cheers and floodlights. I stood at the edge of the packed bleachers, my boots scuffing the concrete, feeling like a fish out of water in my faded flannel among a sea of team jerseys. At 31, I'd long outgrown high school games, but my buddy Cole swore this blind date was worth the trip. "She's real deal sweet, Jake, and down home like you," he'd said, shoving a description in my hand, "woman in red" by the end zone railing. My barbecue food truck, Smoky Trails, kept me busy, but Cole's persistence and my own lonely evenings had me scanning the crowd. There she was by the railing in the wheelchair-accessible section, a vision in a crimson sundress that caught the stadium's glow like a sunset. Her brunette hair spilled in waves over her shoulders, and she waved a pom-pom with a grin that could outshine the scoreboard. My stomach did a flip. Not just from her beauty, but from the detail Cole had conveniently left out. She was in a wheelchair. No big deal, I told myself, but my boots felt heavier climbing the steps. What if I said something dumb? I adjusted my Stetson and forced a grin. "Hey, I'm Jake. Are you waiting on somebody?" Her hazel eyes sparkled with mischief, sizing me up like she was reading a playbook. "I am, but if you're my dad's latest setup surprise, you're early." Her laugh was warm, like a summer night on the ranch, but it threw me. "Dad? Setup?" I must have looked like a spooked colt because she tilted her head, her pom-pom stilling. "Wait, you're not here for me, are you?" The roar of a touchdown drowned my stammered reply, but I managed. "My buddy said to meet a gal in red here. I'm Jake Harlan, Smoky Trails Barbecue." I gestured vaguely, hoping I didn't sound like an idiot. Her grin widened and she extended a hand. "Janice Carter, graphic designer and occasional football cheerer. I'm waiting for my dad, who's late as usual. But you re-welcome to join me, unless you re-scared of nachos and a little confusion." I laughed, tension easing, and slid onto the bench beside her. The mix-up was clear. Cole's date was somewhere else in this sea of fans, but Janice's warmth kept me rooted. She handed me a nacho dripping with cheese, her fingers brushing mine, sending a jolt through me like a spark from a campfire. "So, Jake, what's a barbecue guy doing crashing my dad's VIP section?" Her tone was playful, but her eyes held a challenge, daring me to keep up. As we swapped stories, her designing viral logos for sports brands from her home office, me perfecting brisket recipes under the stars, time melted away. Her wit was sharp, her laugh infectious, and every glance felt like a secret we were both in on. But the shadow of her dad, some big-shot oil exec who'd yet to show, loomed. She mentioned his overprotective streak, how he vetted every guy who came near her since the accident that changed her life. "He thinks no one sees me," she said, her voice softening. "Just the chair." I leaned closer, the stadium's roar fading. "Then he's blind, Janice. You're the brightest thing in this place." Her eyes locked on mine, and for a moment, the world was just us, the air thick with something unspoken. The announcer's voice snapped us back, but the spark lingered. Where was her dad? And why did I hope he'd stay lost a little longer? By the time the game ended, Janice's dad had texted. A last-minute deal in Dallas kept him away. Her relief was palpable, but her eyes held a flicker of disappointment. "He means well," she said, "but I'm not a kid." I offered to drive her home, and when she mentioned her family's ranch just outside Willow Creek, I suggested a detour. "Ever had barbecue under the stars?" I asked, half joking. Her smile was all the answer I needed. The Smoky Trails truck was parked at my small ranch, a modest spread with rolling hills and a sky full of stars. I fired up the smoker, the scent of mesquite mingling with the night air. Janice rolled up to the fire pit, her sundress swapped for a cozy sweater she'd grabbed from her truck. "This is your setup?" she teased, eyeing the string lights I'd hung for late-night prep. "Romantic for a first non-date." "Non-date, huh?" I shot back, plating brisket and coleslaw. "Then why are you blushing?" Her laugh rang out and we settled by the fire, the crackle of wood underscoring our banter. She told me about her cheerleading days before the accident, a car crash that took her mobility but not her fire. I shared how I left a desk job to chase the open road with my food truck, craving freedom over a paycheck. Every story drew us closer, our shoulders brushing as we shared a blanket against the chill. Her hand found mine, her fingers tracing mine with a deliberate slowness that set my heart racing. "You're not what I expected, Jake," she murmured, her eyes reflecting the firelight. "Most guys run when they see the chair." "I'm not most guys," I said, my voice low, "and I'm not running." The air between us crackled, her gaze holding mine like a magnet. I wanted to pull her closer, to erase the space between us, but a distant rumble of tires broke the spell. Headlights swept the drive. Her dad, finally. His silhouette was imposing, his voice sharp as he called her name. The night wasn't over, but the stakes had just gotten higher. Janice's dad, Mr. Carter, was every bit the oil baron stereotype, tall, steely-eyed, and radiating control. He strode toward us, his boots crunching gravel, his gaze flicking from me to Janice with a mix of relief and suspicion. "You're out late," he said, his tone clipped. "And who's this?" "Jake Harlan," I said, standing to meet his handshake, which felt like a test of strength. "Just keeping Janice company since you got held up?" Janice's eyes danced with amusement, but her dad's didn't soften. "Appreciate it," he said, though his tone suggested otherwise. "Janice, let's get you home." She rolled her eyes but agreed, promising to text me. As I watched her truck disappear, a knot formed in my gut. This wasn't just about a spark anymore. It was about proving I was worthy of her. The next week, I invited Janice to the ranch again, this time for a proper date. She arrived in a denim jacket, her hair loose, and we rode out to the creek on my ATV, her wheelchair secured in a custom rig I'd rigged up. The way she laughed, fearless as we bumped over the trail, made my heart swell. At the creek, we spread a blanket, the water glinting under the moon. "You built this rig just for me?" she asked, her voice soft. "Wanted you to see the best spot on the ranch," I said, my hand finding hers. The tension between us was electric, every touch a promise. But her dad's shadow lingered. She'd mentioned his calls, his insistence on protecting her. When I pulled her close, her head resting against my shoulder, she whispered, "He'll never think anyone's good enough." "Then I'll prove him wrong," I said, my voice fierce. Her smile was my reward, but as we headed back, a text from her dad lit up her phone. "Home now. We need to talk." The night felt fragile, like a storm was brewing. Days turned into weeks, each date weaving us tighter, picnics by the barn, late-night talks in the truck. But Mr. Carter's disapproval grew, his calls more frequent, his questions sharper. One evening, he showed up at the ranch unannounced, catching us laughing by the smoker. "Jake, a word," he said, his voice cold. He laid it out plain. I was a drifter, a food truck guy with no roots, not good enough for his daughter. "She needs stability," he said, "not some cowboy dream." Anger flared, but Janice's voice cut through, firm from her spot by the fire. "I choose my own stability, Dad, and I choose Jake." The standoff was tense, but her words were a lifeline. Later, alone under the stars, I took her hand. "You sure about me, Janice? I'm just a guy with a truck and a dream." She leaned closer, her eyes fierce. "You're the guy who sees me, Jake. That's enough." Our hands intertwined, the world falling away. Her dad's approval might come slow, if ever, but we had each other. As the stars burned above, I knew we'd write our own playbook, one where love didn't need permission, just two hearts ready to fight for forever.